The concept of Naruto having all 5 nature transformations to me originally wasn't an idea that sparked much passion. Perhaps it's just my view, but at surface level it seemed like a bit of a waste. We're just giving him something he normally gets, just a bit earlier. But more recently, I've been almost obsessively studying Six Paths Senjutsu. The one thing that stuck out was how connected it was to Yin-Yang Release, and it just started flooding into my mind if it were possible to synthesize it, to make synthetic Six Paths Chakra. Have you ever considered if it's possible to make it without Hagoromo's chakra or the Ten Tails? Let's look at the Ten Tails for a moment. What does it actually do? Well, we know that it utilizes Senjutsu, which is to say sage energy, much like it taught on Mount Myoboku. It also uses this to make use of all forms of chakra, including every release, as all chakra in the Naruto World, every kekkei genkai, and all forms of this mystical energy have spawned from it. It only makes sense that all of this together would be able to create Six Paths Chakra. But wait a sec, you can't just learn Yin-Yang Release like the others, can you? Well, here's the thing. There is evidence to suggest that merely using Yin Release at the same time as Yang Release accomplishes the same thing. The Yin-Yang Release creation of all things technique, as well as Izanagi, are undoubtedly linked as a statement explains, but Izanagi doesn't use Yin-Yang Release, just Yin Release and Yang Release at the same time. So in this way, mixture of these two releases along with sage energy should create something akin to synthetic Six Paths Chakra. So let's continue this line of thought and see where it takes us. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. We've also noticed that a lot of folks who are watching our videos aren't actually subscribed to the channel. We know that YouTube does a great job recommending you things that you want to watch, but if you want to support the channel, or if you want to make sure that you don't miss any videos, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks so much. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all of our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. Jiraiya sat at his study and read through books. He looked up from his desk for but a small moment and peeked out the window at Naruto and Sasuke, who both were in the yard, continuing their training, doing their own thing. He'd given them free reign at some points of the day to practice whatever sort of thing they wanted. Right now, Naruto was trying to teach Sasuke how to make this Truth Seeker orb. Sasuke was frustrated with every attempt to do so blowing up in his face. Naruto had eventually decided to take a moment to teach him how to control each individual nature transformation. Given that Sasuke was an Uchiha, he naturally had skill with Yin Release, so Naruto was attempting to help him learn to control Yang Release, as he felt it was an important step in learning this technique. But what was this technique truly? What was this Truth Seeker orb? How did it work? He was reading through book after book, trying to find any instance where anything similar had ever been noted. In one book, he found reference to the Yada mirror, which was said to have been endowed with all nature transformations. He read about the mirror further and found that it had been believed to be one of the many treasures of the Sage of Six Paths, a weapon to which he granted power like unto his own. A mirror that possessed Yin Release, Yang Release, Earth, Wind, Fire, Water, and Lightning releases. It was believed that this mirror could be used to defend its user from any jutsu. The same was true for Naruto, as his so-called Truth Seeker orb was capable of diffusing any nature transformation they threw at it, except for Senjutsu Chakra, which was weird. Jiraiya was beginning to think that Naruto was making use of the same power that had made the Sage of Six Paths so powerful. Sadly, they knew so very little about the sage, but what they knew of him sounded incredible. The ability to make anything into reality, the ability to create and endow chakra. Jiraiya looked back out to Naruto. Within him swirled the perfect storm, mastery over all the elemental natures, over physical and spiritual energy, the power from which seemed to spawn either the same abilities as the Sage of Six Paths, or at least something akin to it. Jiraiya took out a quill and dipped it in ink as he opened the book that Kakashi had given him to continue noting any particular discoveries about it. It is believed, at least by me, that Naruto has accidentally discovered, or more like rediscovered, an ancient form of chakra that has not been seen since the age of the Sage of Six Paths. Having learned shape manipulation via the Rasengan, he has managed to seamlessly add all 5 nature transformations, as well as Yin and Yang Release into his Rasengan, and has created something with the same properties as the Yada mirror. Reading back through past entries, I recognize that Naruto was naturally born with the affinity for all of these releases, which leads me to wonder if perhaps Naruto has some distant relationship with the Sage of Six Paths. Perhaps genetic. Perhaps he's distantly related to him, and fortune had selectively bred Minato and Kushina's family lines to purify their connection to the Sage. Or perhaps it's more spiritual. The question is, do you believe in reincarnation? That was how Jiraiya ended his entry. He stood from his seat and came to the window. It was more likely now that Naruto had somehow inherited a similar power to the Sage of Six Paths. Perhaps that was what it was. Perhaps Naruto was the reincarnation of the Sage of Six Paths. There was hardly any explanation for this, but now Jiraiya began to believe something new. Was it possible that Naruto was the child of prophecy that had been mentioned by the great Toad Sage all of those years earlier? Jiraiya began to think that maybe he should take Naruto and Sasuke's training more seriously. He would approach the boys. "I can see that you two are making progress. What have you accomplished?" Naruto smiled at Jiraiya. "Sasuke managed to use Yang Release without it blowing up in his face, so that's a good place to start." Jiraiya smiled. "I want to take you two somewhere." Both boys looked at Jiraiya with confusion. He continued. "You know how I've been teaching you Sage Mode and how to use Sage Energy? Well, I learned about it from the Toads of Mount Myoboku. I want to take the two of you there to further your training and maybe learn a few secrets as to why you're so different, Naruto." Sasuke looked to Naruto, who was silent. It had been obvious for a long time that Naruto was different than everyone else, even different compared to Sasuke. Naruto nodded. "Sure." And so they would travel to the home of the Toad Sage, Mount Myoboku. While there, Jiraiya would let the boys train further in any way they wanted, with Sasuke continuing to hone his Yin Release and Yang Release along with his Senjutsu training. Jiraiya, on the other hand, met with Gamamaru. He would explain to the Toad Sage what he had discovered, and the Toad Sage would begin to explain to him in a moment of clarity something he had never told Jiraiya before. "I was the one who trained the Sage of Six Paths to utilize Senjutsu." Jiraiya was astounded. He had known that Gamamaru had been around long enough to know the Sage, and that he had been teaching Senjutsu to people for about as long, but he hadn't realized that Gamamaru had known the Sage personally. Gamamaru continued. "When I met the young man, he was perhaps twice Naruto's age. He and his brother, Hamura, sought training from me, and I obliged happily. During that time, I came to learn of his usage of Six Paths Senjutsu. He had managed to mix Yin Release and Yang Release into Yin-Yang Release in a way not too unlike Naruto. For all intents and purposes, the two are very similar, yet very different. I cannot determine what sets Naruto's chakra apart from the Sage of Six Paths, but all I know is that they are different, even if slightly." Jiraiya then asked the Toad Sage the obvious question on everyone's mind. "Is Naruto the child of prophecy?" Gamamaru looked out to the boy who currently trained his techniques with Sasuke. "It is impossible for me to say. The future is always in flux. I know that the child will soon appear, but who it is remains unknown to me." From this point, they let Naruto and Sasuke continue to train for as long as they desired. The two boys continued to grow in every capacity, from strength to intelligence to age and size. After about 2.5 years, Jiraiya felt that they had learned from him everything they needed to know, and so he brought them back to Konoha. There, they would meet up with Sakura and Kakashi, both of which had been training quite a bit themselves to increase their own potential. Jiraiya would personally return the book to Kakashi and explain to him what had happened. Kakashi took the words to heart and continued to train with his team. All the while, Jiraiya would be called to Tsunade's office where the two of them would go over the presence of the Akatsuki and their actions. Tsunade would decide it best to send Jiraiya back into the field to investigate, all while Naruto and Sasuke continued to train with Kakashi and Sakura. The strength and growth of his students had surprised him. Kakashi was truly proud of the shinobi they were becoming, but time continues to pass, and the Akatsuki begin making bolder and grander moves, one of which is kidnapping Gaara. And so, Team 7, along with Team Guy, went to save him. They walk into the Hidden Sand village to inquire about Gaara and the Akatsuki's location in the hopes of helping secure him. They then find Kankuro, who had been severely wounded and poisoned by Sasori. Not even the greatest doctors of Suna can heal him, yet Sakura steps right up to bat and easily saves his life, which startles Sasuke and Naruto, who had no idea that she was capable of such a feat. Temari and Kankuro would point them to a certain location in the desert and would tell them that the Akatsuki were hiding somewhere near there. To that end, they send a powerful warrior and loyal friend of the village, Chiyo, along with them to save Gaara. Team 7 then head out on their way. As they walk, Naruto addresses the elephant in the room. "So, you've been studying medical ninjutsu. Sakura nods. Yeah, I've been studying under Lady Tsunade. Sasuke looks to her. How did you get so good? I mean, yeah, I know Lady Tsunade is good, even being able to pull me out of Itachi's Tsukiyomi. But what you did just basically puts the best doctors of Suna to shame. How did you do it? She smiles a bit. It's not like it was super hard. I just had to isolate the poison, pull as much as I could from his body, and synthesize an antidote based on the properties of its chemical structure. Honestly, I'm a bit surprised that nobody else in the village could do it themselves. It seemed so elementary. Sasuke and Naruto looked at each other. Sakura continued. I decided to take a different path from you guys by learning to become a medical nin. You might think that it's an easier thing to do, but the mental capacity required was taxing even for me. The benefits of learning from Lady Tsunade are obvious. Not only can I save lives, but I'm a more efficient combatant too, because now I know where all the vital spots are, how they work, and how to manipulate body functions to subdue my opponents. Not to mention, she's been teaching me how to increase my strength as well, and how to form the strength of 100 seal, she said, pointing to her forehead. I'm interested to see what Jiraiya taught you two though. He taught us to use the Rasengan, which is actually a very versatile technique, but then I added my nature transformations to it and it becomes impossibly strong. Sasuke then chimed in. Besides that, he taught us how to use Senjutsu. Basically, we can take energy in from outside of ourselves and use it to our advantage. We don't get tired as fast, as we continue to take in energy from around us, meaning we expend very little of our own strength when we fight. The downside is that it takes time for us to get more Senjutsu chakra, along with the fact that we must stay still for long periods of time to charge it, which can be a pain. But Pervy Sage did say it would become easier the longer we practice, Naruto said. Eventually, we'll be able to take in chakra far faster. As they continued to go, they would eventually be stopped by Itachi and Kisame. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. Naruto stepped forward and put a reassuring hand on Sasuke's shoulder. We'll do this together, as a team. It's what we're here for. Sasuke nodded. Together, Team 7 fought against Itachi and Kisame, but it was revealed that they were nothing but copies, with but a fraction of their real strength, designed as a distraction. If they're trying to distract us, then it must mean we're going the right way, Sakura said. To this, Kakashi agreed, but he also reminded them that they needed to hurry, as they spent a lot of time fighting these clones, and that if they were opting to use a distraction, it meant that this had become a race against time, and whoever was fastest would be the victor. And so they picked up speed and continued on. They eventually made it to the cave where they located Sasori and Deidara. They sat atop the body of Gaara. He had apparently been killed, his tailed beast already stripped from him. It was too late. They couldn't save him. But you know what they could do? They could avenge him. Naruto, Kakashi, and Sasuke teamed up on Deidara, who was attempting to get away. Sakura and Chiyo focused on Sasori in the meantime. Due to Sasuke being with them, they actually managed to bring Deidara down and kill him, recovering the body of Gaara. All the while, Sasori was killed by the combined efforts of Sakura and Chiyo, but even with that victory under their belts, they had failed. Gaara had been killed. This was bittersweet indeed. Chiyo, however, revealed to them her part in making Gaara Agent Cherokee in the first place and felt like his life was ruined because of her. And so, to make up for this action, she utilized her own technique, one's own life reincarnation, to give her life force to Gaara and sacrifice herself. Due to her sacrifice, Gaara's life was restored to him, even though he didn't have his tailed beast anymore. With Gaara in tow, they managed to return to Suna, a village that was now in Konoha's debt. On their way back, however, Sakura made mention of something that Sasori had told them about a meeting with Orochimaru at the Tenchi Bridge. Returning to Konoha, they would deliver this message to Tsunade, who would immediately begin forming a team. She would delegate this mission to Team 7, though she intentionally left Sasuke out due to his past transgressions in connection to Orochimaru. Sasuke was very upset about this, but had no choice but to comply. The fact that he was still a shinobi right now was only because Jiraiya had played on Tsunade's good graces. Team 7 would be sent with Sai and Yamato, as Kakashi was too tired from his mission to the Land of Wind. There, the team would meet with Kabuto, but the whole thing turned out to be a farce, and that Orochimaru had actually planned to kill Sasori. And so, to save Yamato, Team 7 appeared to aid in the fight. Knowing just how dangerous Orochimaru and Kabuto were from first-hand experience, Naruto would waste no time going into his version 2 cloak. With it, he would play it smart and safe, which made him an even more dangerous fighter. Going about it in this more clever fashion, they would manage to defeat Kabuto first. Orochimaru would begin attempting to flee, but Yamato was tracking him. They would all rush after, eventually catching up to him, where the combined might of Yamato's Wood Release, Sai's Super Beast Scrolls, Sakura's Strength of 100, and Naruto's version 2 Chakra Cloak would overtake Orochimaru and lead to his demise. With this mission complete, they would return to Konoha where Sasuke would be waiting for them. They would get just a little while to rest from taking on 2 large missions, and Kakashi would eventually return to Team 7 from his leave. However, since Gaara's capture, it became paramount to target the Akatsuki and bring them down. This didn't go exactly according to plan, as many of Konoha's shinobi who had been sent out to hunt the Akatsuki, particularly Hidan and Kakuzu, had ended up dead, including the son of the late great 3rd Hokage, Asuma Sarutobi. Shikamaru, having watched this, was dead set on getting his revenge. And so Team 7 was sent in to help in the battle against Hidan and Kakuzu. Kakashi and Sasuke would focus on fighting Kakuzu, while Naruto would attempt to help Shikamaru take out Hidan, which was no easy feat. They did manage to do it though. Kakuzu was brought down by the combined might of Sasuke and Kakashi, and Shikamaru, along with Naruto's help, managed to capture Hidan's head and have it buried for eternity on Nara clan land, in an effort to get some semblance of revenge on the crazed cultist. Team 7 would return to Konoha tired and drained, but Team 7 could never catch a break, as it's discovered that at some point during their time out in the field, Jiraiya had accidentally stumbled into the lair of the Akatsuki in Amagakure, and having no backup was sadly killed. This information was given to Team 7. This was a heavy burden on them, particularly on Sasuke and Naruto, both of whom had spent 2.5 years of their lives living and training alongside Jiraiya. This was an emotional shock to both boys, enough to awaken Sasuke's Mangekyo Sharingan, as he believed that he should have been with Jiraiya in his final moments, believing that had he been there, he perhaps could have saved him. Tsunade attempted to help him understand that even if he had been there, he would have also been killed, but despite this, he still felt responsible. Neither Naruto nor Sasuke really felt up to anything for quite some time, and it was given that they both should take some time off to cope with the loss of someone so close to them, someone who had become like family to the 2 boys who had lost their own at a very young age. However, unlike Naruto, Sasuke continued to train. This loss fueled his hatred, and his hatred gave him the motivation to get strong enough to avenge his master. However, as he trained with his Mangekyo Sharingan, as well as his other abilities, something occurred in him. His Mangekyo underwent a sudden change. The flower pattern remained within the middle of a dark black circle with a red outline. However, beyond that red outline, another ring of black could be seen having formed, itself outlined in red. This continued on until the entirety of his sclera was concealed by black rings and red outlines. Sasuke had developed new abilities from this as well, and so he decided to question the Great Toad Sage on it. He went to speak with Gamamaru about what had happened with his Mangekyo, and Gamamaru began trying to make sense of it. He told Sasuke that it appeared to be very similar to the Rinnegan, the particular dojutsu of the Sage of Six Paths, but that it was very different, seeming to be born from the Mangekyo. Less that it had become a Rinnegan, and more that it had further evolved as a Sharingan. All the same, the relationship it had to the Rinnegan was still striking. Gamamaru could hardly make heads or tails out of this strange visual mix of both the Rinnegan and Mangekyo Sharingan. He assumed it to be a further mutation that he unlocked, due to mixing Yin Release, Yang Release, and Senjutsu together to create a pseudo-form of Six Paths Chakra, which in turn created a pseudo-form of the Rinnegan specifically evolved as a step up from the Mangekyo Sharingan. He and Sasuke continued attempting to train to see what this new dojutsu was capable of, and they came to realize that he had many new techniques. He possessed a Matarasu and Kakatsuchi in each of his eyes, as well as a Susanoo. But besides this, he also possessed a Menotechikara, though he seemed to lack any of the abilities specifically linked to the Rinnegan. Furthermore, this dojutsu, while stronger than the Mangekyo Sharingan, had an even greater toll, causing Sasuke's eyes to bleed from usage. If overused, they would go blind, though Gamamaru began to assume that if Sasuke managed to awaken the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, that his new dojutsu would even out and stop from exacting its toll on him. With this new dojutsu having never been discovered before, Gamamaru decided to name it the Rinnetengan, the Samsara Heavenly Eye, an eye that mimics the Rinnegan, yet remains as the Mangekyo Sharingan, a heavenly eye that can see the truth of all creation. Sasuke looks into his own eyes through the reflecting pool nearby and recognizes that this may be the first time that anyone has awakened such an eye before. With it, he can protect Konoha. Sasuke eventually returns to Konoha after a brief stint spent with the toads of Mount Myoboku. When he gets back, he's told to meet Itachi at the Uchiha hideout. Sasuke proceeds to go without telling anyone, though Sakura later finds out and tells the others about it. Team 7 is sent out, along with a few other teams, to help Sasuke. They have a hard time catching up though, and the presence of Toby and other Akatsuki members keeps them from truly being able to catch up, though Naruto meets with a clone of Itachi who offers him the crow and the Sharingan possessing the ability Konohama Tsukami. Sasuke meets with Itachi, and Itachi asks him if he managed to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan yet, and Sasuke tells him that he has. That and so much more. Sasuke displays his new Rinne Tengan, something that takes Itachi by surprise. The Rinnegan? Sasuke shakes his head. No, but something similarly different. This was the only thing that they could use to describe it. The difference between this Rinne Tengan and the actual Rinnegan was described as the same as the difference between Yin Release plus Yang Release was to Yin-Yang Release of Six Paths Senjutsu. They were similarly different. And so Itachi, feeling rather excited about this, launches straight into it with Genjutsu. However, Sasuke is completely unfazed by Tsukiyomi, and so they too go into ninjutsu as well as Mangekyo techniques. Amaterasu is a technique they share, though Sasuke seems more powerful than Itachi's, likely due to the mutated nature of his Mangekyo Sharingan. Itachi barely escapes this eternal flame through the usage of his substitution technique. He would awaken his Susanoo, to which Sasuke would as well, with Sasuke's seeming far more complete than it should be at this stage of development. Together, Sasuke and Itachi do battle with their Susanoo, but the power of Sasuke's Susanoo overpowers Itachi. It's then that Sasuke makes use of his Ameno Tejikara to switch places with Itachi's kunai holster and stabs him from within his Susanoo. Itachi is surprised by this attack and hits the ground. Itachi's partly blind from his usage of his Mangekyo over the years. Sasuke's not doing much better though, as the new eye he's using increases the strength of his Mangekyo quite considerably, but also increases the damage done to his eyes. Itachi sits there for a moment in shock before he slowly begins to laugh. You did it, Sasuke. You're the hero of the Uchiha, the hero of the leaf. Sasuke seems skeptical of what Itachi's telling him. Itachi looks up. To the victor go the spoils, the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. My eyes, take them for yourself. Your eyes will never go dim again. Sasuke's face didn't change from his serious expression. This uncharacteristically happy side of Itachi at death's door was a little strange to say the least. Itachi sensed this and spoke. Soon you're likely going to hear things about me, about Konoha, and they're probably true, but it's paramount that you meet with Naruto. I've explained to him the truth. Take my eyes and forge ahead your own path. No matter where you go, I'm with you. Sasuke was confused by this. Why would Itachi say this to him? The truth was, Itachi knew what would happen when he died, what would come out, and what would be said by Toby. He needed to set Sasuke back on the right path, and so he told him to visit Naruto. And sure enough, Toby appears after the death of Itachi to spill the beans to Sasuke. Meanwhile, Naruto returns home after failing to stop Sasuke. All they can do now is hope that he's okay. A lot of time passed from the point Sasuke left, over a week, closer to 2 in fact. Naruto was beginning to get worried that Sasuke had perished in battle. It didn't make sense. Why would Itachi approach Naruto about saving Sasuke from the darkness if he planned to kill him? Naruto hated this, but he had to wait. To take his mind off of it, he began to experiment with his various nature transformations, mixing and matching. As he did so, Yamato, who had been watching, would be utterly surprised to see Naruto make use of Wood Release. Naruto, of course, would have never thought this was strange. Wood Release, or Mud Release, mixing Earth Release with Water Release, just seemed natural. He didn't know anything was special about it, but Yamato then told him that besides himself, the only person in recorded history to have used it was the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. This further would be written down in the book that studied Naruto's abilities. It was at about this time that Sasuke would return. He'd been told by Toby that Konoha was responsible for the downfall of the Uchiha, and that it was what led to Itachi massacring them. Toby had told him these things in the hopes that he might become a pawn to use against the Hidden Leaf. But Toby hadn't accounted for Itachi telling Sasuke to seek Naruto for the answers. And so, after having Itachi's eyes transplanted, he would return to Konoha where he would find Naruto. Sasuke! Naruto would suddenly vomit a crow, and that crow would cast Koro Amatsukami on Sasuke. As Koro Amatsukami was cast, Sasuke would see a vision of Itachi, telling him the truth about his connection to the Uchiha clan downfall, and why he agreed to do it for Danzo. He explained why it was necessary. Sasuke hated this, but he couldn't disagree, mostly because it was Koro Amatsukami, but anyway, Sasuke would then make the decision to stick with Konoha from that point on instead of betraying it. And good thing too, because Pain was on his way. Pain had been told by Toby that if they wanted to get the 9 beasts, they'd need to be more proactive. And given the dangerous levels of strength that Konoha had, as well as the terrifying strength of the Nine Tails, Pain was sent after it in the hopes that he would be strong enough to take it. It's then that Pain begins his assault. Naruto and Sasuke, however, are already in Konoha, and both are stronger than they normally would be at this point. And so, Konoha begins fighting back. However, with Naruto and Sasuke there, Pain is almost seemingly easily defeated. Alright, well maybe not easily. Defeated mid-diff. Nonetheless, Pain is defeated by the combined efforts of Naruto and Sasuke. After this, Tsunade would call a 5 Kage summit to discuss the events surrounding Konoha and the Akatsuki, and to inform the other nations of their needs to prepare against it. It's during this time, however, that Tobi takes command and declares the 4th Shinobi World War. With the threat of the Akatsuki growing, Tsunade decides to send Naruto away to train, which is just fancy talk for don't get in the way. Naruto would head to the Land of Lightning, where he would meet with Killer Bee and begin training under the Jinchuriki in hopes of awakening even more of his tailed beast's power. To do this, however, he has to face the darkest parts of himself, mostly regarding the village's treatment of him as a child. But Naruto's love and desire to fulfill his duty and his nindo leads to him being more than pure enough to enter the shrine to continue his training. While there, he's told by Killer Bee that if he wants to make full use of his beast's power, he needs to release it from its cage and fight for dominance. And so, together with Bee's help, he does just that, and manages to set a new contract with the beast that allows Naruto to take more chakra when he needs to, which allows Naruto to attain his Nine Tails chakra cloak. However, because Naruto mixes it with Sage Mode and Yin-Yang Release, he finds himself in a sort of pseudo Six Paths Sage Mode, not too far removed from the Chakra Mode that Tenario Otsutsuki could use, a form that Killer Bee simply called Celestial Nine Tails Mode. With its power, Naruto senses the war, having not yet noticed that it had begun. He and Killer Bee would escape the island to join up, where they'd meet the Raikage and Tsunade. At first, both of them wish to send Naruto back. However, with a little convincing, Tsunade changes her mind and then goes on to convince the Raikage that this is the best thing for the war. Naruto is then allowed to fight. He would then link up with Sasuke, who had been helping the allied shinobi forces determine who among them were mad sus Zetsu imposters. Naruto and Sasuke would help fight the Edo Tensei, including Itachi and Pain. Pain they managed to defeat and seal up fairly easily, but Itachi was harder. But after seeing how Sasuke had decided to remain in Konoha as its hero, he felt peace and would go on to the afterlife. But the war was not over yet. The Ten Tails was awakening. Team 7 goes to face off against Tobi, where Kakashi's Sharingan comes in clutch. It's discovered that Obito was the one behind the mask, which explained how Kakashi's Sharingan could counter Tobi's Kamui, since they were the same technique. Together, Naruto and Sasuke managed to push Tobi back, but Obito would eventually go on to absorb the Ten Tails, which proved to be an even greater task. At this point, Naruto and Sasuke are just getting outclassed, but they still manage to beat Obito by the skin of their teeth. Just as he's attempting to revive those he's killed in the war, he's forced by Black Zetsu to instead resurrect Madara. Madara would then take back his Rinnegan and absorb the Ten Tails. At about this time, Madara mortally wounded Sasuke. He then removes the Nine Tails from Naruto, but Obito manages to take a little bit of the Ten Tails chakra from Madara and give it to Naruto. Meanwhile, Naruto and Sasuke both float in darkness, where they meet the Sage of Six Paths, who grants them each Six Paths Chakra. For Sasuke, his Rinne Tengan would evolve further into a true Rinnegan, though their appearance changes only minimally, adding Tomoe around the rings. Naruto actually gains real Six Paths Sage Mode. Together, they face off against Madara, but can't stop him from launching the Infinite Tsukiyomi. Despite this shortcoming, they manage to survive it alongside Kakashi and Sakura, utilizing Sasuke's Susanoo. After the light from the Infinite Tsukiyomi dissipates, the group are ready for round 2, but before it begins, Black Zetsu betrays Madara and transforms him into Kaguya. Together, Team 7 faces off against her, but her power is overwhelming. She teleports them around her dimensions quite a bit, but Naruto and Sasuke get their chance with the combined might of Team 7 and manage to seal her away with a Six Paths Chibaku Tensei. And with that, the 4th Shinobi World War comes to an end, and those trapped in the Infinite Tsukiyomi awaken. As things settle back down, Iruka begins to go over the data that had been gathered on Naruto and attempts to make heads or tails out of it. Naruto would walk into the room with him, where he would run his fingers over the desks. Iruka would look up to greet Naruto. Naruto would smile as he looked around. "It certainly has been a long time since we last met here, hasn't it?" Iruka would nod solemnly. "About 5 years." Naruto thinks about it. 5 years doesn't seem that long, but all the same, a lot can happen in that time. And yet, some things haven't changed, Irika said. Everything's come full circle. You've returned to this room and we're still talking about your abilities. And what have you learned? Naruto asked. Irika flipped through some of the pages. You have very similar abilities to those described of the first Hokage, and the same as those described of the Sage of Six Paths. But the reason for this, we still don't know. What's the connection? Naruto sat on a desk. You know, during the 4th Shinobi World War, I kissed death. And during that time, I gained true Six Paths power from the spirit of the Sage of Six Paths. He explained to me something important. He said that I was the reincarnation of his son, Ashura, and that Sasuke was Indra. Irika added that bit of information to the book, and suddenly it made sense. Naruto, you're the reincarnation of Hashirama Senju. Naruto thought about it. Come to think of it, yeah, I guess I would be. Irika was astounded. That means you were the one who founded this village. Naruto nodded, deep in thought. That also means Sasuke was Madara. It was strange to see him fighting Madara. After all, he was fighting himself. Irika looked at the book and the solved mystery as to why Naruto was so different. But then, slowly, his expression began to turn a little sad. Naruto raised a brow. What's wrong, Irika-sensei? Irika sat the book down. We finally figured out what makes you different. The issue is, there's no way for us to harness that for the future. It's exclusive to you. Naruto shook his head. Does it really matter though? Irika looked to him as Naruto continued. So what if I have all 5 nature transformations? And so what if I can use wood release or have a tailed beast? Does that matter? It's not what tools we're blessed with that make us good shinobi, Irika-sensei. It's how hard we work that makes one a good shinobi. Irika laughed a little. If I didn't know any better, I'd think that you were the master and I was the student. Irika stood and put the book on his desk. How about we go over some ramen to celebrate a mystery solved? And that's where I plan to end it for the time being. Honestly, it was tough figuring out a good way to make this one interesting, but the old Amagi twist comes in clutch once again, I suppose. I enjoyed being able to create my own abilities for this. I wanted something reminiscent of the Rinnegan for Sasuke, and I have to admit that it took me longer than I thought when it came to naming it. But I thought that was a good idea. Sasuke nearly stole the show for me because it was just way more interesting writing about the Rinne Tengan. Despite my love of dojutsu, this is the first time I've ever made a custom dojutsu. I hope I did Kishimoto-sensei proud with it. But what did you think? What was your favorite part of the video? What would you like to see in the future? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, peace out.
Did you enjoy our video? Well then be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.